Around the world, there are peoples who maintain customs as ancient as humanity itself, practices passed down from generation to generation, loaded with cultural, spiritual, and social meaning, but which, to the eyes of those who live outside these realities, may seem extreme, shocking, or even hard to believe. On different continents, tribes preserve rituals that involve pain, physical endurance, bodily transformations, and psychological challenges, not as a spectacle, but as an essential part of their identity and their way of seeing the world. That is exactly what you are going to see here today. So leave your like, click the subscribe button below, and let's go. In New Guinea, a region of Indonesia, there is a cannibal tribe that can be very dangerous, known as the Asmat people. The territory where they live includes mangroves, swamps, and lowland forests, creating an isolated environment that shaped the culture and life of the indigenous people. One striking characteristic of the Asmat is their wood carving art, valued by collectors around the world. However, beyond the art, the Asmat tribe is known for its frightening and dangerous past. Until the middle of the 20th century, the Asmat were renowned headhunters and cannibals, practices that persisted until the intervention of Christian missionaries in the 1950s. It was believed that the death of an adult, even from illness, was caused by an enemy, and revenge was a crucial part of appeasing the ancestors. Attacks to obtain heads were fundamental in rituals that marked the transition of boys into adulthood. In addition, cannibalism was an important part of these rituals, maintaining an endless cycle of revenge. These terrifying practices kept the Asmat practically untouched by outsiders until the 20th century, when religious missions began to influence the region. Until the middle of the 1950s, their remote and difficult location kept them isolated. It was only with the arrival of Catholic missionaries that there was an effort to suppress cannibalism and headhunting in this tribe. In fact, in 1961, it is believed that Michael Rockefeller, a famous member of the Rockefeller family, was killed during an expedition to collect art from the Asmat people. Michael traveled on expeditions to the tribe several times, but on one of them he disappeared and never returned. Many indications showed that he was probably attacked and cannibalized by the group at the time. Currently, this tribe still maintains many of its cultural traditions. The Zang Betto cult is one of the most curious and mysterious spiritual manifestations of West Africa, deeply rooted in the traditional culture of the Ogu people, also known as Egun, especially in Benin, Togo, and regions of Nigeria. Inserted in the context of traditional African religions and strongly linked to Vodun, Zang Betto is not just a religious ritual, but a social, spiritual, and cultural institution that spans generations and keeps alive a worldview where the visible and the invisible coexist constantly. The word Zang Betto can be translated as guardians of the night or people of the night, which already reveals their main function within the community. Traditionally, it is believed that these spiritual entities patrol villages and towns during the night, protecting residents against thieves, invaders, sorcerers, and negative energies. Before the existence of formal police forces, the Zang Betto played the role of surveillance and maintenance of order, being feared and respected for their supposed ability to perceive crimes and bad intentions even without witnessing them directly. The most intriguing aspect of the cult lies in the appearance of the Zang Betto. They manifest as large figures completely covered in straw, raffia, or dried leaves, forming a tall conical structure that completely hides any human trace. According to traditional belief, there is no ordinary person inside the costume. What manifests there is the very spirit of the night. During ceremonies, these figures spin rapidly, move in apparently autonomous ways, and enter trance states that reinforce the idea of a supernatural presence. There are reports of feats considered impossible, such as the ability to swallow sharp objects, perform complex movements without losing balance, or reveal hidden information about members of the community. Beyond the mystical character, Zang Betto fulfills a very clear social function. It acts as a traditional mechanism of social control, helping to impose norms, resolve conflicts, and preserve collective values. In some communities, its decisions are still respected, even with the presence of modern legal systems. This happens because Zang Betto represents not only authority, but also a direct link with the ancestors and the spiritual world, something that, for these cultures, carries immense moral weight. The cult also manifests in large festivals and public celebrations, especially during events linked to Vodun, such as traditional festivals in Benin. On these occasions, what might seem like mere folklore to an external observer is, in fact, a sacred moment where music, dance, trance, and spirituality blend together. Each movement movement, each drumbeat, and each spin of the Zang Betto carries symbolism and reinforces the connection between the material and spiritual worlds. On the small and remote island of Pentecost in the Vanuatu archipelago in the South Pacific, there exists one of the most impressive and ancient tribal rituals in the world called Ngol, which is both a rite of passage and a ritual linked to fertility and yam harvests. Every year, between April and July, indigenous peoples from communities in the south of the island gathered to perform this ceremony. For weeks, young men and adults of the village worked together to build a tall wooden tower, usually between 20 and 30 meters high, using only branches, vines, and forest logs, without nails or modern components. When the tower is ready, the Ngol begins. Boys from around 7 years of age up to adult men climb to the top, wearing what they can of traditional clothing and tie strong, flexible vines to their ankles. These vines, chosen with extreme care, are the only thing preventing the fall from being fatal. At the right moment, each participant throws himself into the void, head first, trusting only in the strength of the vines stretching under gravity and in the muscles of their own bodies. The goal is for the vine to stretch enough to slow the descent and cause the diver's head or shoulders to lightly touch the ground. This almost symbolic contact with the earth is considered a sign of bravery and good luck for the coming harvests. It is always worth emphasizing that this ritual is considered very risky and generates debate among specialists about such danger. Therefore, do not try to repeat this at home in any way. For the people of Pentecost, the Ngol is a traditional rite of passage, a test of courage and endurance that demonstrates that a young person is ready for the responsibilities of adult life. The tradition is also seen as a symbolic ritual of fertility for the land and crops, as it is believed that a successful jump can bring prosperity, especially for the yam harvest, a central food in the local culture. The ritual of sharpening or chiseling teeth in some tribes of Indonesia, especially among the Mentawai people, is a striking example of how body modifications can be deeply rooted in traditional cultural, aesthetic, and spiritual values. Among the Mentawai, an indigenous people inhabiting the Mentawai Islands in the province of West Sumatra, this custom has historically been linked to ideas of beauty, maturity, and cultural identity. Among the Mentawai, mainly young women around puberty undergo a process of tooth sharpening, traditionally performed by an older relative or an experienced member of the community, using simple tools such as a chisel or small blade and a wooden or iron hammer. During the procedure, there is no anesthesia. The person usually holds a piece of wood or a green fruit to bite, which helps somewhat relieve the pain. The incisions and filing transform the front teeth into more pointed and triangular shapes, sometimes compared to shark teeth or a distinct aesthetic style of that culture. This painful act is more than just a physical modification. As mentioned earlier, for the Mentawai, sharpened teeth are associated with beauty and often symbolize that the young woman is ready for adult life, marriage, and motherhood. The Asaro Mudmen, known as the Mud People, are a tribe from Papua New Guinea with a very distinctive and striking appearance. The Asaro Mudmen earned this name because in addition to covering their entire bodies with mud, they wear clay masks in ceremonies and rituals. These masks, often decorated with exaggerated features and frightening expressions, have a history that blends culture and strategy. Legend says that centuries ago, the Asaro people were fleeing enemy tribes and hid near a muddy river. When they emerged covered in mud, the enemies, thinking they were spirits or supernatural creatures, became terrified and fled. Since then, this incident gave rise to the custom of using this disguise to frighten enemies. Today, the use of these masks is more symbolic than practical. They appear in dances and cultural performances that tell ancient stories and reinforce the people's connection with their traditions. The slow and almost theatrical movements of the men, combined with the appearance of the masks, create a somewhat mysterious and intriguing atmosphere. Despite the visual impact, the entire process is quite simple. They shape the clay, let it dry, and that's it. Nothing very sophisticated, but the effect is impressive. The Hadzabi tribe, also known as Hadza, is one of the last hunter-gatherer peoples in the world who still maintain a way of life very close to that of their prehistoric ancestors. They live in northern Tanzania, mainly in the Lake Eyasi Valley region, and depend almost exclusively on the surrounding nature to survive. The Hadzabi do not practice agriculture or animal husbandry. Their subsistence is based on hunting wild animals and gathering fruits, roots, tubers, and honey, which is one of the most valued foods in the community. Among their hunting customs, one that draws a lot of attention from the outside world is the fact that they hunt and consume monkeys and baboons. For them, this does not represent a symbolic ritual or anything extraordinary, but rather a natural practice within their logic of survival. They hunt animals available in their territory, respecting seasons and the abundance of each species. Monkeys and baboons are part of the local fauna and, when killed, provide an important source of protein, especially in periods when other foods are scarcer. Hunting is carried out mainly by men, who from an early age learn to make and use handcrafted bows and arrows. Many of these arrows have tips treated with poisons extracted from local plants, increasing hunting efficiency. From a cultural perspective, there is no religious or moral taboo regarding the consumption of monkeys, as exists in some modern societies that view this as absurd. After all, it is not part of the menu of most people in societies around the world. It is worth noting that, according to biologists, the handling and consumption of non-human primate meat represent a high risk of disease transmission to humans. Biologists warn that viruses similar to HIV and other pathogens such as herpes, Ebola, and hepatitis can be transmitted to humans through contact with monkey blood and tissues. Therefore, there is a certain risk. When the Member of Parliament for the Kibra district in Kenya, Ken Okoth, died in 2019, his family faced a serious division over what should happen to his body after death, as a predominant tribe in the area, in a certain way, demanded that a ritual be followed. Okoth, who had been diagnosed with cancer, had explicitly stated in his will his wish to be cremated, and so his wife and some family members decided to proceed with the cremation in Nairobi, at the Karaoke Crematorium, in a private ceremony according to his wishes. However, the decision to cremate the body deeply offended certain customs of Luo culture, one of the main ethnic groups in Kenya, especially in the Kabondo-Kasipul region in Homa Bay County, where Ken Okoth had family roots. For many Luo elders and traditional leaders, cremation represents disrespect for cultural mourning practices and rites of passage. According to Luo tradition, when a community member dies, the body must be brought to the family home, in this case the maternal house or ancestral land, and buried or symbolically represented through a ritual that includes the burial of a banana stalk in place of the body when it is not present. In addition, the ritual also stipulates that the widow must have relations with a stranger for 4 days as a form of purification, a fact that further contributed to the refusal not only of the widow, but also of part of the family to participate in what was demanded by the tribe. This request by the elders became the subject of public controversy and family dispute because it directly confronted the individual desire of the deceased and his personal autonomy with traditional cultural norms upheld by part of his family and community leaders. Some family members supported the traditional position of the elders, while others felt that the explicit wish of the politician should prevail, and that forcing traditional rituals after his cremation could disrespect his rights and feelings. Although it was considered illegal by the government in 2015, the custom remains alive in one of the poorest and most rural areas of the country. The Tucandera ritual is a very intense and painful practice carried out by some tribes of the Amazon, such as the Satere Mawe people in Brazil. This ritual focuses on one of the most powerful ants in the world, the Tucandera ant. They are small, but their venom is very strong and can cause extreme pain. The ceremony takes place when young members of the tribe are ready to enter adult life. The ritual involves placing Tucandera ants into gloves made of natural fibers. These gloves are filled with ants, and the young person must place their hands inside them. When the ants are provoked, they sting the participant multiple times, releasing venom throughout the body. The insects are known as bullet ants because the pain of the sting is compared to a gunshot wound. Participants must concentrate as much as possible to avoid showing weakness. For the Satere Mawe, this ritual is a way to test endurance, courage, and emotional control. Whoever passes the test without fainting earns respect in the community. The Afar people, also called Afars, are a nomadic ethnic group inhabiting the Afar region in Eastern Africa, covering parts of Ethiopia, Eritrea, and Djibouti. They speak the Afar language, belonging to the Cushitic branch of the Afro-Asiatic family, and are traditionally nomadic herders, caring for camels, goats, sheep, and cattle. But one of the most striking cultural and economic practices of this people is salt extraction in the Danakil Depression, one of the most extreme and inhospitable regions on the planet. The Danakil Depression, located in northern Ethiopia and known for temperatures that frequently exceed 50 degrees Celsius, is a vast volcanic desert with enormous salt deposits formed by the evaporation of ancient bodies of water over thousands of years. These salt-covered plains, especially around saline lakes such as Lake Karun, are where generations of Afar have extracted this resource since ancient times. Salt extraction work is extremely difficult and demanding. The Afar cut the salt crust with simple tools such as axes and hoes, breaking large salt slabs into smaller blocks. These blocks, often weighing several kilograms each, are stacked and then transported by camel and donkey caravans along routes that can take days to reach trading towns. For centuries, salt was so valuable in this region that it was used as a form of currency in trade and the local economy. The so-called salt caravan is not just a means of transport, but a cultural element deeply rooted in Afar traditions, symbolizing resilience, environmental knowledge, and community cooperation that allows survival in one of the most hostile places on Earth. One of the most well-known and also strangest traditions, especially for those who see it from the outside, is that of the Mursi tribe, who live in southern Ethiopia, and it involves enormous discs used in the lower lip of women. The ritual begins early, around 15 years of age, when the young woman reaches puberty. The lip is cut and a small wooden piece is placed in the hole so it does not close. After that, a slow process begins. Gradually, this piece is replaced with larger discs made of clay or wood, which stretch the lip over time. Some adult women end up wearing discs measuring 12 to 15 centimeters. Within Mursi culture, this has nothing to do with punishment or random imposition. The disc symbolizes beauty, strength, and maturity. The larger the disc, the greater the woman's prestige, and in many cases, the higher the bride price paid in marriage, which often involves dozens of heads of cattle. Today, the tradition is changing. Some young women choose not to follow the ritual, influenced by school, the city, and contact with the outside world. Even so, the lip plate remains one of the strongest symbols of Mursi identity, frightening for some, but a source of pride for others. The Temazcal, also known as the Sweat Lodge, is an ancestral indigenous ritual of Mexico and Mesoamerica that has been practiced for thousands of years and is still performed today, both by traditional communities and by contemporary spirituality and wellness groups. It is a ceremony of physical, mental, and spiritual purification, carried out inside a small enclosed structure shaped like an igloo or tent, whose interior fills with hot steam generated by volcanic stones heated with fire and water. Water, often mixed with medicinal herbs, is poured over these stones, producing intense steam. Participants remain inside the almost completely dark structure, exposed to high heat, while a guide or shaman leads the ceremony with chants, prayers, drum beats, and invocations of the elements of nature. The experience is usually physically demanding, causing abundant sweating, a sense of confinement, and in many cases, strong emotional reactions, which are interpreted as part of the process of cleansing and inner transformation. Traditionally, the Temazcal was used for different purposes, such as healing rituals, spiritual preparation for warriors, purification after important events, recovery of women after childbirth, and moments of transition in life. Leaving the ritual symbolizes rebirth, as if the person emerged renewed, more balanced, and in harmony with the body, spirit, and surrounding nature. Within indigenous cosmology, the ritual also reinforces the connection with ancestors and the natural cycles of life. Do not forget to subscribe to watch more videos like this.